Okay, so I used a blow dryer to bring this piece into the leather hard stage. It doesn't take very long at all. The reason I wanted to do that is because I'm about to add another form on top of this. If this is in the plastic stage, another form on top of this, almost the same size, is going to make this collapse. It's going to make it sink, and it's going to completely change your form and to one we don't want to have. We want to keep the tapered end, which means the base is going to be smaller than the sides. At this point, though, I'm going to go ahead and take the scraps that I did not scrunch up, and I'm going to put my form on top of a piece of the scrap, and I'm just going to go ahead and trace it. I'm going to create a base that I'm going to slip and score just by tracing it. There's nothing fussy about this part of it, and the reason I wait at this point to do it, instead of creating a template that is a circle, is that I sometimes decide to switch up the form, and I might change it to an oval instead of a circle, and you know, it's just as easy to trace and cut out after you've made the base form to make the bottom. So the absolute bottom base is here. I'm just going to score and scratch and then add slip. I want to do this now so I don't, once I start building my piece taller, I don't have to handle it. If I overhandle it, I'm likely to change the form and the shape of it, and I don't want to do that. Okay, I'm gonna match that up, give it some pressure, and go ahead and make a skinny coil. All slabs connections that we do are going to have a very skinny coil just on the inside here to assure that the attachment is going to be well received, so I don't have any openings. I don't want the clay to move back and pull away from itself. So that's what the little skinny coil, and I'm going to hold this up in a minute so you can see. So that's going to eliminate any chance of opening that little skinny coil. So I blended all the inside. I'm just going to very carefully turn it upside down so I can now blend the base into my first form. I'm going to use my metal rib tool, keep moving it, and actually I'm going to get myself a little banding wheel to work on. We have these in class. We have large ones, we have small ones, and this is just going to make it easier for you to turn and blend without over touching the piece. Okay, so I've blended, and now I'm going to paddle. A couple of things I like to do with paddling: it helps, again, bring back my form, my tapered ends, and it straightens out any little bumps that I might have created in the blending process. And then I'm going to kind of take a look across the horizon, and I can see it's a little uneven, so I'm going to use a paddle to bring that back. And I see I've got a little area here I need to blend. Okay, so now I've got my base all worked out. I'll just carefully take this up, turn it right side up now. Now it's ready to accept my next template form. Okay, I'm gonna move my banding wheel out of the way, bring in my next slab. If I see any unevenness, I'm gonna get rid of that. This is gonna make my life easier. Again, once I go from template to clay form, it also compresses the slab nicely so that I'm working with an even surface and no cracks. I also not very fond of the texture that the canvas creates on the clay. It disappears once I start blending, but if I can eliminate it now, that's good too. All right, so now I'm ready for my middle piece. And again, I'm going to trace with the knife and then cut this out. Okay, let's see, I got this good. Again, we'll save these scraps. I can always use them in another project or for another part in my vase vessel. Okay. Again, I'm going to just do a slight overlap and I'm going to score and slip this together. If I do the inside on one side, I must do the outside of the other side and add slip. I'm very sloppy with my slip application. It actually, to me, it works in my benefit because if it oozes out, that's just all the better to have the attachment have some water to it. Every time I'm working with clay, especially slabs, I find that they dry very fast, so you have to be careful. My recommendation is every time you build a section, make sure that you could finish it. This way you're not letting it sit a day, a weekend, and give the chance of it drying to the leather hard stage before you've had a chance to completely blend it. So I've got a lot of blending to do here. I'm try to do that quickly. Blend the inside with my wooden tool. These wooden tools can also be used as knives. If you're trying to save on trips to the tool material tables or saving yourself some time at the end of the class and things that you have to wash. And I'm just going to go ahead and slice off this extra with my metal rib tool. And I'm going to paddle this even. My connection. So I'm actually stretching the side out a little bit. I don't mind that. We'll see and make sure that it still fits. So let's go ahead and I'll bring in my base. So let's see if I have to do any adjusting. I do have to fix a crack. Nope, I do not have to. So I might stretch this out just a little bit more and get rid of any cracks. Remember with, if you have any cracks, and I'm going to show you what I'm fixing here. So I had an opening here, a crack. I don't know if that happened when I was paddling, but I'm just going to really mess that up by using my scratch tool and doing a little X crisscross motion and then smooth it out. Tamp on the table. Okay, so the great thing about leather hard is you can do all your attachments and not worry about sinking the form, crushing it, having it warp, and you can still carve into it, which is what we're going to need to do eventually. We're going to use our symbols, our patterns, and carve designs into this using symmetry, asymmetrical designs. They must be balanced, which means, you know, you're going to have to think. You're not going to do a design on just one little tiny part of this vase. You're going to do a decorative theme of your culture of choice. And you're going to learn some things about line design. So I'm going to go ahead and stretch this right to the edge. Again, I'm going to grab my banding wheel. Just go ahead and size it and get a good attachment. So I'm just using some pressure, not too much, because even though this base is leather hard, I don't want to push on it to the point where I end up cracking the base. So I'm pushing on my top form into my bottom form so that it forms a suction with my slipping and scoring. That should be good. I'm just going to move this out of my way a little bit, and I'm going to make a skinny coil, much skinnier than this. I'll show you. I'm I'm going to go around and I'm going to put a skinny coil all at the seam. I'm just going to add some slippy water to it and just go ahead and fill the seam right there. Now I'm going to go around and do this to the whole seam. And I just fell a tiny bit short right here.
Reminder to all Interact Club students to report to the library immediately after school. Interact Club is meeting in the library at 2 o'clock.
Okay, so I'm going to use my score tool. Just have that pushed into my seam. Now I'm going to take my rib tool and blend. I want to make sure that I don't see any openings for my seam. Where my seam was, I won't see a seam. Just use my rib tool. Now I'm going to also blend the inside seam. I'm going to use my wooden angle tool. Clean that off. I'm going to keep my hand on the outside.
Interact Club, please report to the library immediately. Interact Club to the library for our meeting with the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Okay, so I blended the inside, the outside. I'm going to also paddle this before I add the final neck. And I'm going to add this piece last up here. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and paddle. Paddling is actually bringing this piece together. I'm less likely to have any kind of issues with openings or separations in the paddling process. Plus, I can manipulate the form to what I want it to be. If I want to change it, and I think this one I'm going to. I'm going to show you the difference it makes just to even changing it to an oval form, which we can do. And I just want to, on the banding wheel, take a look around, and I could see some inconsistencies with sides. It's not perfectly symmetrical. So I'm just going to go around, and where I see my angles having variations, I'm going to paddle them to the form I want. And I'm going to look at my horizon, make sure that is nice and even. There's some little inconsistencies, but now I'm seeing the form I want to see. All right, I think with this one,